Wow.
Hey, how's it going, guys? It's Nathan from Cannabis Comedy Church. We're sitting here with Paul Thompson all the way in Toronto today. Thank you for having us, Paul. We appreciate you coming and sit down with us. So Paul Thompson's is a great comedian from the industry, guys. We're super happy to have him here. So Paul, how have you been enjoying COVID, big guy?
Loving it.
This guy is loving it.
I told you, yeah.
This guy is feeling it in his soul.
I've been on top of the world, man. It's been good. I'll tell you what I said on the first day.
Yeah.
Was I could tell what was going to happen, and I think this is the honest truth. It's similar to what could happen to you in jail or any other types of isolation.
Yeah.
Your brain's either going to collapse in on itself or it's going to open up.
Yeah.
And it depends
And you
what
let
path
it
you
open,
go down.
right?
Yeah, man. And I let it open, and it's just. Yeah,
It's been
I
fun,
see
man.
a ton of positive changes happening around me. I'm lucky to know that like the people that are in my life seem to be going down a positive path.
And the break must be nice, right?
The break's amazing,
The
man.
break, because you, like, obviously you've been in the industry since you were...
Yeah, since my whole life I've been performing, but stand-up specifically I've been doing since I was 17.
Since 17, and then you said you did other things. I remember you did the voice of Wishbone. That's amazing, bro.
I did a whole bunch of stuff.
And so obviously because you can't do shows anywhere, there's not been stand-up, so it's been obviously maybe a nice break for you.
It's been an amazing break. I mean, I'm still busy in my own ways, and but like I really took the break and doubled down on it. I'm taking a break from Instagram, Facebook. It's like the first time in my life that again, I've even had social media. I think we all have since I was in high school.
Yeah, and so what do you think is the biggest change in your life since you've cut out the social media?
Man, just you know what? You right away notice 2 days into like deciding I'm not going to use Instagram or Facebook. You'll notice how much you grab for it instinctually.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Always looking for it.
And especially when you're hanging out with people, despite being a person who likes to talk a lot and stuff, I'm a nervous person.
Yeah.
You smoke weed. When I smoke weed,
Yeah.
I get socially anxious in a sense. And I think as a comforter, I will just, you always kind of reach for your phone. You're always reaching to check your phone. And knowing that there's no Instagram or Facebook to check on.
Yeah.
Kind of just instead of reaching for your phone, you take a deep breath and all the cheesy things that I guess I've been ignoring, but like
it's
literally
more
the
self-aware.
cheesiest.
Yeah, more self-aware.
Take a deep breath and look around.
That's crazy.
Is what I've been doing a lot more. And to be honest with you too, it's like in the past 2 months of not having it, I really haven't missed much.
No.
And that's the thing you remind yourself. And
it's not that big of a deal anymore.
I see the dragon that you chase.
Yeah.
Like I cut out a lot too. Like the first 6 months of this year, I didn't drink, I didn't do anything. And
you were on like almost a sober cleanse, right?
Yeah, I went on like a full sober cleanse. Now I'm drinking again, but I'm not back into blow. I haven't done blow in like 222 days.
No,
yeah.
I feel you.
So I understand too. Like I can take time. In the past 3 months, it's amazing to be isolated inside and look at stuff like.
You feel good about yourself.
And analyze.
When you look inwards.
I don't regret the last, I kind of always wanted a rock star phase, when you start this young, you're like, and I'm happy that, I did tons of drugs and crazy shows and did all that, but now going forward, I can't, there has to be a new chapter that opens up.
It's got to be a cleaner chapter, an easier chapter for your life.
Yeah.
So what do you got here? You got you were saying earlier, so tell them what happened here.
I went to my buddy's house, and he had 2 plants that are beasts. They're both really, really big.
Yeah.
And there's a little plant in this little pot, like this big, and it was caught in between them, and I guess it just didn't get a lot of light, and he was like, yeah man, I'm gonna probably get rid of this. And the second I heard it, I was like, you mean to tell me it's a rescue? And then you know how rescues are.
Rescue.
So I gotta be really gentle. Like I feed it like purified water and stuff, because obviously rescues are high danger. I don't want it biting, you know what I mean? And like it trusts me a lot. But
what do you got going on in here? You got some eggshells?
Yeah, I've been breaking up eggs and putting
these guys feeding it nutrients. That is amazing. This actually came to pretty good life after what you were saying it was at.
You can see it was damaged. It was panicking. Some of its leaves were starting to die. And then when I looked it up, it was because it was trying to kill itself. Classic.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So I really did rescue it.
Yeah.
And like when you smoke weed and like you have plants too, right?
Yeah, I got it.
You feel like, man, I forget what that. I haven't had plants for 6 years, and you forget that connection.
You know, it's funny that this COVID was actually the first time I've ever had time to grow plants.
Okay.
And it was crazy because I still had my day job and stuff, and every day I was coming home, checking the new leaves. I'm like taking pictures of the new baby leaves. And And then the guy told me, because it was my first time growing, the guy said I had to start trimming the bottom.
Okay.
So what happens is you're supposed to trim the first 12 inches of the 8 to 12 inches of the plant, because it stops producing nutrients to the top of your plant eventually.
Okay.
So all the leaves at the bottom, this collects all the good sunlight, but it won't collect enough nutrients.
Because the nutrients are being sucked up from the bottom.
From here, from these
soil.
leaves, from these leaves. They're eating it before it gets to the top. So eventually you want to cut just a little bit of all this stuff that's dying here. You want to take this all off, and all the nutrients and the light will... That's where you get your top buds will be up here, bro.
Man.
So it's gonna be a nice little plant here.
You know, and honestly, if I get a half quarter from it, I could care less. For me, it's just like I just want to make sure it's okay and give it a season.
You're such a good dude.
Yeah, man, I feel like a connection.
Weed people are amazing.
Yeah,
I love weed people. It's so funny. He's like, I just want the plant to be okay.
Yeah, I just want it to be cool. Like I play music for it and I chill with it.
And so you've been smoking weed for a long time. How long have you been smoking weed for?
I guess it's probably 15 years old.
15, eh? So you didn't start until I was 18. So who were you guys grabbing weed off back then?
Back then? Well, one time I smoked when I was like 11.
Whoa, who did you get weed off then?
So check this. So I went to this girl's house and I was with my buddy. And we went to her house because her cat just had kittens. And to this day, they were the youngest kittens I've ever seen. I think they were like 4 days old. Like they were kittens.
Yeah.
I was sick. I was 11 and we were playing with them. And that's the only reason why I went to the house. And then my buddy was like to the girl, I guess she always told us her brother's a huge drug dealer and stuff. You know, you're 11. You don't know what a drug dealer is or something. And we're like, you said that he sells weed and stuff. It doesn't look like we're in a drug dealer's house and stuff. Because I picture like, this house is gonna be like, it's gonna be gold everywhere.
Place.
Yeah, it's gonna be like that. So you're like, you lied. Your brother's a drug dealer. And eventually she was just like, she didn't want us to think she was a liar. And I remember she was like, yeah, he is a drug dealer. She went over to the computer and opened up a drawer and she pulled out a bag of weed. And I remember just being like, wow, like that is weed. Like that's what weed looks like in the movie. But looking back on it, this was like easily a pound of weed. Like it was like a big bag.
Yeah, you didn't realize how much was there when you were a kid.
So instinctually we were like, can we have some? She's like, sure, because there's so much. And we just took handfuls of this dank weed. Like I remember it. And then we brought it to the park. And I remember we were trying to smoke it and we just didn't know how to. We were like rolling it like into like, we would take like the nug, not chop the nug up, put it in paper, then twist the paper like into like, it was a ball, and then light the ball.
The nug.
Yeah, and then try and go like,
That's
like,
so funny. I've never.
I didn't know how to smoke it. Then some guy saw what we were trying to do, which even looking back on this is creepy because he was easily like 17, 18, probably older. He was like, you guys try to smoke weed, and then he rolled the joint for us, taught us how to smoke it.
That's wild. And you remember that guy's name?
No, I don't remember him. That guy was.
Oh, it was just like a one-off.
Yeah, it was a one-off.
That's
weird.
He
rolled the joint for us. We smoked it, and then I got high. I went to my buddy's house. And my buddy was like, you want to drink wine? Like, let's double down. We never got drunk before or something like that.
These guys we're going all out tonight.
And I was like, yeah, let's drink wine. So we stole a bottle of wine from his parents. And I remember I took a sip of it and I was like, ugh, that tastes gross.
Yeah.
But my buddy finished it. Then we were in his room, and next thing I knew, he just started puking everywhere. And I remember being like...
You think it was a green note or from the wine?
It could have been a mixture of the both. But I was 11, and I remember, like, I guess the weed was hitting me too. And I remember just thinking, like, I am never going to do this ever again. And that I was like, this is my life. I'm not going to drink. I'm not going to smoke. Like, I saw what happens when you do that. But then I guess when I was like 15, you know, everybody's like kind of doing it and saying it's awesome, and then, you know, one thing leads to another and you try it and it's like.
So were you a weed pothead in school then?
So what happened was, like, I remember smoking and thinking, okay, actually I do like this when I was 15.
Yeah.
For the first 3 or 4 times, I definitely wasn't getting high. And then I went to my buddy's cottage one time and just got ripped out of my mind, and I hated it, and it gave me mad anxiety.
Some people don't like that.
So I took a break. I took a break for a month. I was like, I don't want to ever do this again. And I smoked again, and instantly I got anxiety. And my friend's older brother's girlfriend was there, and she was like, put on some headphones, listen to music, and draw.
Yeah.
And I remember I sat down, I put on Heart of the City Unplugged with the Roots and Jay-Z. And the second I saw, like, I made a line with like a pencil, and like I understood that, like, you know, I created that line, and like I could almost hear the like.
Were you ever a drawer at all before that?
I did like to draw, yeah. Actually, I kind of always did draw, but then that was like, it's like I don't remember what happened between then and the next hour. I just remember being happy, and music sounded better than it's ever sounded, and all of a sudden I drew this massive tree, and then I was just like, oh, I get it. And still to this day, I get anxious when I smoke weed.
So are you, like, when you smoke weed, do you watch out for the sativa and the indica?
Not necessarily, because I just know either way I'm almost always going to be anxious. But then it's confusing. My relationship with weed is weird, because most people, they go, okay, if they smoke and they get a panic attack or they get anxiety, they know it's not for me. And maybe I should just be like, it's not for me, because when I smoke, but one, if I'm creating, that kind of calms me down, so it gives me guilt. But the main thing is, it's like there's a Bob Marley quote where Bob Marley's like, you know, marijuana shows yourself to yourself. You know, it shows you to yourself. And that's why, like, I get anxiety every day from smoking weed, but I smoke weed every day because it's like, if I didn't, I feel like I'd be playing life on easy mode. You ever play Madden or anything?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I need to do this because it makes it difficult. If I don't smoke weed for 3 days, I don't check in, so I can just be like, yo, man, I'm sick. I'm killing everything and this and that.
Oh,
but when I smoke, and it's like, maybe you were an asshole. Maybe this. It checks your ego. Maybe that was a rude thing. Maybe you didn't.
That's wild. I've never.
But I'm mean to myself when I smoke weed, but in a necessary way. You know what I mean?
Crazy.
Like, I'll smoke and I'll start questioning a million things, and I get anxiety, but that's necessary.
So, are you an everyday smoker now then?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And so, so every time you smoke, you get a little bit of anxiety.
Yeah, and it just humbles me. It's necessary to have anxiety.
Necessary anxiety.
It is, yeah, because if I didn't, my ego can sometimes get out of control, or I can just start to, like, you know, it's good to, like, it just brings me back down to earth.
Yeah, man.
But I don't see, like, it's in a way that kind of isn't fun. I don't like getting anxiety, but I do.
Wow,
you know?
That's wild. I've never had that response. I've never seen that response. Like, and then you're almost okay with it then. Now.
I am, and that's the thing too with like anxiety or with stuff like that too. Like, a lot of people, I don't take medication to try and fight anxiety. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I don't think there's anything wrong with therapy and stuff.
No.
But I do think that, like,
you should be able to deal with it.
Yeah, and anxiety is a blessing. You know, it protects you. You know. That's one thing I noticed with alcohol. It's like alcohol would help me kill anxiety, but then sometimes you kill too much anxiety. And you start speaking too freely, you know, and you're a dickhead. You wake up the next morning, you sober up, and you're like, I didn't mean to be that big of an asshole. I don't know why I said that, you know.
Yeah, man.
So it's like you drank to kill that anxiety, but that anxiety was there trying to protect you.
This is like a new perspective I've never heard, so I'm gonna have to like see if there's more people who reach out to some of the community. I've never heard any of that before.
Yeah, no, I've always been like that, and that's one of the things why I think I'm a good person for advocating weed. It's like, I think weed always had one problem was we had a lot of even from guys like Snoop Dogg, who are major people in the cannabis community, to like our own community, there's always been kind of a binge culture about it.
Yeah.
Which I'm not supportive of.
Either you're on board or you're not.
But also in the sense too that they promote with weed, like, hey, like I you know, I'm a large advocate of weed because this can help you. It can eliminate medications that are harmful.
Medications.
Absolutely, all that stuff. But you don't need to be like, and now we're going to smoke 3 1-ounce joints in a row, and there's always videos of like 8 bongs in a row. Hey man, if you want to rip 8 bongs in a row, that's cool, but like that whole like...
It's not giving you the purpose of what the plan is.
I like to be an advocate for like, man, there's nothing wrong with rolling a joint, taking 2 hits every 2 hours, and that's good
taking
enough.
a little bit of edge off.
You know, that this isn't a competition.
Yeah.
Because in any other industry, you think about it as a medication, that's so ridiculous. I don't like when people try and bully each other on weed.
Yeah,
and I'm
you
really
taking
good.
14 Advils, I'm taking 13.
Like, for example, you're like, right before we started this, you're like, do you do dabs? And I'm like, nope. And you're like, that's cool.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But you know how many people are like, what do you mean? Pussy, this, that.
Yeah.
But if you come back to thinking, okay, do you support marijuana as a medication? And people are like, yeah. Then think about that in a different sense, that would that ever happen with Advil?
Yeah.
Oh man, sometimes I get headaches and I take an Advil. And it's like, really? Take 3. And you're like, no, one's good enough for me. And they're like, pussy.
Yeah, it
You know what I mean?
sounds stupid.
Why else would you bully somebody for how much medication they need? So it's like, yeah, man, I'm a big advocate for like, you know, you can love weed and not, you can smoke it once a week and this and that.
It doesn't have to consume your life.
Yeah, you know, we all have different dosages and that's it.
And
you know?
different purposes for it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, again, so you've been doing comedy for a while, and then the weed lounges have always been super fun. I'm still new to comedy, but I got to do the Vapor Central.
Yep.
And Vape on the Lake once.
Yep.
Oh, no, not Vape on the Lake. What was the show that Chris Robinson ran? Was it Vape on the Lake?
Possibly Vape on the Lake. Yeah, I
maybe
started
it was
Vape
that
on the
show.
Lake.
Yeah, oh yeah, and it was Vape on the Lake that you were at. And
I did all
so
the
the weed
Mondays.
lounges were always great, man. So and obviously COVID's been closed, so they haven't been around. So do you miss them?
Those particularly,
I mean,
yeah,
not
I do.
those, but with weed lounges in general.
I do, yeah.
The
I do always
atmosphere
miss
was
that.
always fun. You know what I mean? The people were different, and it was never like when you went to a bar. You were never worried about what this guy's gonna pop off on, this guy's gonna do. And
Yeah, I know.
It always just felt, and then there was guys working on, you know, there was designers always up at the lounge. There was people working on different projects.
Yeah.
And it just made you see that you're like, oh man, these people can still have regular lives and do businesses and be designers and meet deadlines for clients and
not to mention guys
potheads.
pulling up in their Lotuses and Teslas and stuff like that.
It's so wild, yeah.
You know, so it's like there's a wide range.
It's so crazy. I've seen doctors there a few times, and I've met a few like teachers' aides, and you're like, wow, it brought such a big spectrum to of where the community was at. But you've obviously performed at a bunch of them before.
Tons.
What's it like to perform to a weed crowd?
I think it's incredible, man. It's like one of my favorite things, and I attribute it to where I am in comedy. I always use the metaphor that when you perform at a weed show, it's like, you know when you're at the baseball game and people put the weight on the bat?
Yeah.
And they swing the bat to make it heavy, right? It's like, that's what the weed shows are to me. And like, I'll just give 110%, and you're just, you know, when you get used to like swinging that bat with the weight on it.
Yeah. And
then
like,
if
for
I
the
go
people
down
at home, explain to them like
Well,
what
because-
it's like performing to weed crowds.
Yeah.
Because they're not drunks, they're not just
They're not,
regular.
no, they're quiet, they're definitely attentive, they're definitely listening, but it's harder to keep their attention, and it takes, there can be no fat on the joke. The joke needs to really make sure it makes sense and it gets through to them, you know?
Clean cut.
Yeah, because they're listening so intently that like if there is garbage or if you go down a certain path or something like that, they'll go with you.
They trusted you.
Yeah, and then if you're like, there's no room for you to be like, actually, never mind, or, oh, that was funny before. Like, yeah, because then we'll lose our trust.
Yeah.
But it's about, like, bringing them in and gripping them and holding on to them for 15 minutes. And if you can do that with a weed crowd, like I said, it's like, when you get to that comedy club, it's like, you take that weight off that bat, and it's like... And there was just a period of time where, like, Mike Rita and I were, like, really starting to, switch our gears up, and kind of, like, we're competitive with each other in the most loving, brotherly way of just, like, who can kill harder, who can go longer, starting to, like, try and do, like, hours and 5 minutes, and we were just, and the weed rooms are so supportive to us at that time that Reitz and I would just be in a move to put on a private show, and the lounge is kind of cool because the people were always packed, and they had so much love for us at the time, and still do, but especially at that time, we were just hot. That we could just pop in and surprise, we're both doing 40 minutes.
That's one.
And we were just like, man, getting good with those weed crowds was on another level. It was such a challenge.
Yeah, different types of skate. It builds like an almost like a callus, man.
Yeah, we're fighting 260-pound guys, and then when you come back to the ring, you're like, in like a comedy club, it's 180. People are like, where were you training? When you're just like, you could tell it's on a different level. It was messing guys up. It was really, really tough to follow us when we went back to regular crowds.
You guys have always been monsters. But yeah, that's so funny because you guys built that like, And it's almost because the payout is not as big in a weed room, but
Right.
it's still big in here.
Yeah.
But then when you hear it in like a real like comedy club or like a real
Yeah.
room, you're like, oh, there's the full payout.
And there is times too where you can bring it to a weed room that it's crazier than it would have been even at a comedy club, when the whole room's on board and there's something about everybody being high that all of a sudden there's like the whole room is very aware that they're all watching this guy.
Yeah, we all need to get this.
Yeah, and there's some smashes that you'll have in weed rooms that the way I'd almost compare it is like you can smash a comedy club and some people are like, man, that was dope. But I've smashed some weed rooms and you can feel the energy in the room that you know that like a lot of people in this room are never going to forget this night for the rest of their life. Every time they see me, they're like, man, I remember one time at this vapor lounge, you know, and everybody was like bombing and then you went up and you lit it. Like there's some crazy moments.
And do you ever feel like there's any negative stereotypes or stigmas when you're going to like somewhere where they know that you're like a weed comic or you've been around the weed industry?
No, not
Do you ever
at all.
feel like that there's like a closed offness, like, oh, Paul's a weed comic? Or...
No, not at all.
No, eh?
I think a lot of people more so think that, and like that wouldn't be offensive to me, so I don't mind. I think people think I'm a bigger stoner than I am.
Yeah.
But in a sense, it's like I'm high all day.
Yeah.
But just off less weed.
Just off less weed. That's,
Kind of, you know.
Yeah. So and like obviously you've been enjoying COVID. You said you've been painting.
Mm-hmm.
So and then what do you have like? Can you smoke before?
Yeah.
Do you ever fuck with the CBD or any of the any of the
time.
drops?
Yeah, the CBD, yeah, I'll do the drops a lot. I had like the little like pure isolate, like the pills, or I'll have high CBD strains. I love CBD.
Yeah.
Love CBD.
What do you use? What do you say? So, what's the effect for the CBD? Because you said that the weed kind of gives you a little bit of
the CBD
humbling
would
anxiety.
calm the anxiety most definitely.
Yeah, so it just levels you out.
Definitely.
Sick.
Definitely.
And you don't have any. So I know some people use it for like pains and like. You're like a headache
no.
guy.
You know what? I got this amazing like hand salve that was like a CBD hand salve that like you could put on your hands and it would relieve stuff.
Yeah.
And I had 5 bottles of it and I tried it and it was so sick and I was like, man, I'm gonna start using this. But a lot of my buddies do tattoos and stuff.
Yeah.
And I gave it to them to all try and I'm never getting
the tattoos.
No, their hands, man, from holding onto a gun that's vibrating for 10 years, that starts giving your hands bad pains. It's one thing to just draw with a pencil lightly, you know what I mean? But when you have to squeeze that gun and hold that straight line, it starts to really take a toll on your hands after 10
some
years.
of these guys are actually using this stuff for that.
All of my friends tried it once and they're like, yeah, you're not getting this
You're
back.
not getting the bottle
and I'm like,
back.
yeah, that's fair.
What type of munch you like? What kind
munch?
What kind of munch are you when you nice and ripped?
Man.
What's the primo meal for when you're ripped?
Yeah. One thing, I find the munchies aren't as crazy as they were when I first started.
Yeah.
Do you find that?
Now I can smoke 4 or 5 joints but like back in the day we just be like one joint, I gotta eat something.
Right.
Now.
And I'm almost not even a big guy about smoking before eating anymore. But I do sometimes eat and you'll get the munchies. And I mean the biggest thing is like naturally always just jerk chicken would be my go-to if it could be anything. I just like jerk chicken.
Yes.
Always, man.
Yes.
And then honestly too, if like we're talking flavors, because now that I am high, I am thinking about this and I'm like, man, jerk chicken on rice and peas with oxtail gravy and just the way that all of that tastes. But then to blow your mind, and this is like when you're high, you really appreciate this. To add a ting, to add a grapefruit ting. Have you ever had a ting?
Oh yeah, the drink. Yeah.
Bruh.
Oh, the tings.
When you're like dick deep in a bit of jerk chicken and you rinse a ting on that, it's like, bruh, you're
we're
man.
gonna have to get one of those today.
It just goes crazy with oxtail and stuff. I love that. I love that so much.
And obviously, like the weed got legalized in 2016, and you were buying it way before then. So how do you feel the change has been? Like the craziness of like being able to walk up to like a store with a person with a name tag, and you're like, "Hey, Sharon, like I would need a half quarter of that." And
that's cool. I mean, I
kind of miss buying it from
a lot of it. I miss the random guy and stuff.
Yeah, the one name dude.
But the positives I will say is like I still think it's cool that people going to dispensaries. One thing I like about the dispensary is there's a lot of people that just weren't comfortable buying weed before, never would have been, and now they all of a sudden are because they can just go into a store. And every single one of those stores I've gone into, me at least, I can only speak for myself, they've been so clean. And
it's not like going to your dealer's house.
No,
you know
I'm not even
like
I'm even mean in comparison to a beer store though.
Oh wow.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, they're super nice.
Like they're just like
they take care of like they take care of their weed like they take care of the place. Like,
yeah, they always have like these lights on these weed and jars.
Yeah,
it's
you
always
can
like
look into the jar.
Hardwood, and the hardwood's always like been tended to, like it's like got a shine.
Yeah, like the cafe. I love walking into the cafe.
Yeah, it smells good, and then the staff is just always nice.
Yeah, they're always just ready to help you. It's not like a bartender, you know what I mean?
No.
Most of them haven't dealt with the asshole customers too, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They've just dealt with weed people all day.
For sure.
Like, can I have 2 grams of that? Like,
yeah.
So I guess I never really thought of that either.
And it is just such a, like I said, it's a humbling thing, man. And like, yeah, I just really think like some people that are like, oh man, it gives me anxiety or something like that. It's like, hey, I get it then. I'm not telling you like, go do it before work. Go do it and go to the mall. Like, but by yourself.
Do it at your pace.
On your own. I know it gives you anxiety, but hear me out. Like, by yourself or with somebody you trust, perhaps it's necessary once a week to give yourself that panic.
Yeah, I know it's almost an inward look that you wouldn't look at. Yeah.
I know it sucks, but it's like, one, you're gonna be okay in 2 hours, and that's kind of a fun thing to teach your mind.
Yeah. I've never really met anybody who had that, like where they almost take it to get the anxiety.
Yeah.
And that's a wild concept.
Like I want to learn more about anxiety, and I want to learn how to conquer my anxiety. And smoking a lot of weed will pretty much always give me anxiety. So sometimes when I'm like, it's the end of the day, I don't have to go anywhere, I can shut my door, no one's going to bother me.
It almost makes you look at the anxiety and be like, what's your problem? I
will just smoke and I'll get anxiety, and then I'll try and figure out what. And I mean, I've done extensive writing that, has been 10 years worth of it, and I know I'm not done, but I do think that I'm going somewhere. And it's a blessing that, like, that's the blessing that weed gives me. Some people can smoke it and it kills their anxiety. It gives me anxiety, but
it's almost a motivational anxiety.
Instead of running from that, I'm like, I'm just happy to have the anxiety that I can analyze the anxiety and hopefully be able to help have a better understanding. At least just for myself, I'm learning better and better ways to like cope with it. But I would like to, down the road be able to like be of somewhat advice, maybe be able to write a self-help book or something like that,
Yeah, because everyone, looks at the negative part of anxiety, but no one ever tries to focus on its positive. So that's a cool
Totally.
Because there is positive sides to anxiety. It makes you, think of things more often. It makes you maybe look inwards and be like, oh, how do I fix this? Because if you never have anxiety to fix a problem, then do you really have the motivation to fix the problem? It's almost like, you know what I mean? It gives you that motivation that I have to fix this.
Yeah.
So it's almost a cool concept to think about.
And it shows you gratitude too. And it's like, I might have anxiety just out of the fear of dying, but that's a beautiful thing because it's like not wanting to die is amazing. That's still appreciation for life. And it's like, it's tough to go there, but like, you're like, I don't know, like anxiety, there's beauty in it. And I don't like
have anxiety, guys.
It is though. That's the other thing too. It's like, man, a lot of people have it now, and I like how openly people are speaking about it. And I'm just like, cool. Like it's. So
are you a psychedelics guy then?
Yeah, big time.
Hey, we love the psychedelics. Yeah. All the mind out there. That's mind opening.
This past week, this is the most psychedelics I've done in the past week. I did so much acid this week.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but 2 days ago, bro, I don't even know if I'm allowed to say. I guess I can say this now at this point. It's kind of done, but whatever. Because I don't know if I should. I don't know if I should or will not say this, but I will say this because flat out, like this is like 2 days ago. This is one of the best days of my life, bro. I was just whipped off of some LSD, properly floating. My buddy rented me a jet ski, and I was in Halifax 2 days ago, and I ripped it through the Halifax harbor. I've never been on the east coast of Canada.
On a jet ski on LSD.
Yeah, and I was flying through this harbor. Mind you, too, there's a professional there watching me.
Yeah.
Making sure. So I'm safe. I have a life jacket. I was all good, man. If anything, the LSD was calming me down, but I was full throttle, flying across the ocean. And
full throttle times 2.
The sun started setting. Like when I started, it was day. When I finished, I came back at night. So I saw the whole sunset. There's bridges. There's Dartmouth on this side, Halifax on this side. I'm riding through the wave with like the wind. Can you imagine, bro? I'll like look up. I'm seeing lighthouses.
Wind is so nice on acid.
Canadian flags, and bro, little seals started popping up that were real. Like I wasn't seeing these like seals. They're there. They're like, hey, what's up, man? They're there, and then they see a jet ski come in, so they dip down. Crazy.
Wow.
So crazy. Yeah, man.
Crazy. So what do you think's the next step for weed? What would you like to see happen with it? Because obviously now they're using it for medicine.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to see hemp go big.
Yeah.
Just because it's great for paper and like everything else like that.
Yeah.
So what would you be kind of like, even if it's not that anything around that area? What would you be like to happen with weed next?
I like that thing about hemp for sure.
Yeah.
That's such a good point that people don't realize how much like
it's
prohibition.
Not just about the smoking of the plant.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Even affected like clothing and different things like that being made with hemp. So I would really like to see that happen, and that's some stuff that like I kind of have my hands on in the works of and stuff.
Hey.
I'd like to see a president or a prime minister or even somebody just in a high position of success just also openly be like, no, you know what, specifically a president or prime minister. It would be pretty cool to see them like running the country well, but just like openly like, yeah, I sat down and like I got super high, you know, and just like them just talking about how.
Because you wonder how like some of them make the rules and go across the policies and like.
Totally.
And you're like, how do you guys do all of this without never smoking? So obviously somebody. I mean, are they all using advisors who are smoking weed, or some of them smoking weed?
Mm-hmm.
So obviously not a lot of them are being openly honest about it, because they have to know more about it than just approving it with a stamp. So it's wild. And so you have, so you've been first time growing?
Nope.
So you've grown before, outside, inside?
No, I bought a little like closet thing. Like it was like a little like closet tent, and I had 3 tiny little like auto plants. So sick, man.
That's awesome.
And at the time, man, that was like 2012.
Oh, 20 years. So way before, way before. So what was it like? So where were you growing it then?
In my basement apartment.
In your basement apartment?
Yeah.
So you obviously weren't living at home then?
No, I had 2 roommates.
You had 2 roommates?
But they knew what was up, and it was like, man, it was crazy. It would blow minds. We all have plants now. Everybody has like at least an outdoor plant because we're allowed to. But man, at that time, it was so sick to have people over, and I'd be like smoking joints with them and shit like that. And then I'd be like, I was probably 23, 24, and I'd be like, yo, you want to see something cool? And they'd be like, sure. And when you unzipped it and it was just glowing, the lights were kind of yellow.
Yeah, because they had the yellow or the purple or
So many people had never even seen weed plants before. Like we'd all smoked it, but they're just like, holy shit.
For the longest
and it was
time.
so illegal at that time too. So like, man, I felt like Pablo Escobar.
Yeah, you could go to jail for a weed plant back in the day.
I could have gone, big time.
And so what are you gonna try to do with this guy here? You just gonna keep feeding her?
Just the fact that it was gonna die. If I get a half quarter from
rescue.
it, it's all about the rescue. I'm just doing my best to give it its best life, you know?
Yeah, man.
I feel such a connection.
Like again, you've been doing comedy for a while. So tell me a little bit of a special comedy moment. Because obviously comedy's got a lot of special moments, and I'm still new, so I'm still, like I said, I've only been able to perform for a few small, over 100 crowds, and I know you've performed for something bigger.
Yeah.
So kind of what was the moment when you were like, yo, comedy is what, like you felt it?
Oh, I mean, right from the get-go, I always knew what was up.
Yeah.
It's in my blood.
That's
and it's
it,
like,
you just knew.
Yeah, my dad in his yearbook, it was like most likely to become a stand-up comedian. And then that summer, he had long hair like me and stuff like that. And that summer when he came back, because I guess they came back in September to do graduation. Yeah. His head was shaved because he signed up for the military and stuff like that. My dad's a dope dude. My dad's one of the funniest people in the world. He went on to be like a psychologist for the military, so he has a really interesting life, right?
Oh wow!
It's pretty crazy.
Where at it?
So he's like We moved. We lived in Texas. We lived.
Shit.
So he did stuff with the Air Force for 2 years, and then we lived in Ottawa. My family's still in Ottawa.
Yeah, my dad was part of the Royal Canadian Infantry in Calgary.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was born in Alberta.
Oh,
I was born in Edmonton.
Hey, Calgary.
Yeah. Okay,
Hey,
cool.
that's weird.
Alberta. So like, yeah, we moved all over, and my dad did that, but my dad it was always like, he kind of wishes maybe he tried being a comedian and stuff. And I think my grandma was really, really funny too. So it was kind of like people would say that to my grandma. And it's like my dad's family and like our family's notoriously funny. My grandpa, my mom's side's really funny.
So they were all really supportive when you got into it then?
You know what it is? It's like basically it's people your entire life, a whole family being like, you should be a comedian. And I was the one that just like was like, all right, I'm gonna be the one that does it. You know?
Yeah.
And there's like no turning back. It's almost like I inherited the family business. So no matter what, rain or shine, like it wasn't easy to get started. I wasn't good right away. I just know it's not going anywhere.
No,
that's why
it's who you are. It's just part of the piece that you are, man.
Mm-hmm. And it's just such a big piece of my life. Yeah, and it's amazing. A story in particularly, because you said like, this just popped in my head because we were talking about weed a lot.
Yeah.
I did a show in 2013, maybe 2014. It was a few years ago. Weed's still super illegal, and we did it at this theater. There's probably 250, 300 people there.
What was that like doing underground shows before it was legal?
So that was crazy because there's 250, maybe 300 people there, and we're like, we're getting high, and the theater's hotboxed. To see a cloud of smoke in like what looks like a movie theater, you know, it's insane. And I went on stage and I was like, man, this is like exactly in that time era that I'm telling you, where like me and Mike Reed are like just trying to do our best to just like leave blood on the stage. Do you know what I mean? We're out there looking for the throat. You know what I mean? And I'm like 3 minutes in and I'm just starting to cook. I'm just starting to kill it. And bro, cops come in. A bunch of cops. And it's a theater, so they're coming down the aisles and they have flashlights and they're checking people's like, you know, and everyone's, man, what a trippy experience to just be sitting there laughing.
Yeah, you're in the best moment.
You know, and all of a sudden you look and you're like, oh my God.
SWAT's here.
And I just was like, my mind made a game time decision. And to be honest with you, straight up, I was like, man, I thought about a picture of Lenny Bruce being taken out of the comedy club in handcuffs. And I was like, that's what's gonna happen tonight. Let's go. Let's make history. And I just started going off. And I had some material already that had been killing about like, man, cops and this and like how can you get so mad about weed? And it just was perfectly timed material. So I just switched up my material and I just started going off. I started going off on the police. I started saying all of these different things and people were going ballistic, man. Like just going completely insane. And the cops were there just watching. It was crazy.
So they didn't shut down the party?
They were trying to, but I started murdering. And bro, at a certain point, I was like, I gotta get off stage. And it was like 15 minutes into performing. And
how do you murder so hard that you stop the cops from doing their job?
They kind of were still like walking around and checking people while I was doing this. But I was smashing. And it was a different type of energy because people know that the police are there.
Yeah,
and I'm going off on police.
Paul doesn't give a shit.
So it was like, you could see some Kiwis, right? And man, when I got off, like people stood up. There was like a standing ovation. Like it was crazy. And I was like, man, I'm gonna get arrested. Like that's what's happening right now. And I got off and no cop came straight at me. And they kind of came to an agreement that like, you know, because Reeds went on after and Reeds started smashing. The cops saw that. And they kind of just couldn't help but notice that we are funny guys and like this thing's funny. And all I remember was just, I was still a little bit shook. I was like, I know it's going to go down, but it is what it is. And one of the cops just came up to me and I was like, here we go. And all he said, he was like, you're pretty funny up there, huh? And I was like, yeah, I try.
Be a trip stone.
And eventually they were just like, cool. Like they just left.
They just left.
I don't think the show was allowed to like continue, but they were like, what are we going to do tonight?
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, that's crazy.
Just like, we know you're here or whatever. And there was that. It was, man, that was such a crazy moment for me.
And like, yeah, obviously we did a lot of like crazy stuff when we get high, like you know what I mean, and there's a lot of moments and stuff. There's any moments that like really stand out in your brain that somebody was too high, or someone for instance, one day we were smoking some cannons in a car, and with a guy who doesn't usually smoke, and then he ended up passing out.
Right.
And he was but then when he woke up, he was so thirsty that he just reached for whatever was liquid, and he just grabbed the cup, and it was the Timmy's cup with the butt cup.
Yeah.
With the butts from the cigarettes, and Buddy he probably chugged like 3/4 of a Timmy's cup before he realized that there was butt juice inside, and just vomited it out. Yeah.
That's so funny though. How is anything funny?
Yeah, you know what I mean? So like, didn't you no moments like that? Because people get fucked up all the time.
Here's one that's like not related to comedy, but it's just when
moment.
When you said the cigarette butts, I just remember this, and it's always been one of my favorites. Such a dickhead thing to think it's funny, but man, I can't help it. So I was in high school, I was at this party, and everybody would smoke in the garage. We were all like in the garage smoking, and they had this hookup for the bong that was like on top of the bong, you know, when like 2 hoses can go to it.
Oh no, I've never seen that.
So it's like 2 hoses, but the top would still be open, and then like you would take a piece and I would take a piece, and somebody would light it, and we can both rip the bong, right?
Sick.
So there's this girl there, and she's in like a white dress, and like that's in particular, I think it's her birthday, but she's in an all white dress. She's sitting on the couch in the garage. It's just classic high schoolers, ripping bongs in the garage and stuff like that. And me and my buddy are ripping it, and I take too big of a hit, and I cough. But when I cough, I don't take my mouth off the
bong out
like an idiot, and it just goes boom.
No, not.
And the dirtiest, blackest bong water goes all over this girl. Okay. And everyone's like, oh my God. And I'm ripped out of my mind.
Yeah,
and I'm just
still
like,
trying to catch it.
Oh my bad. But it's still like, what are we going to do? You know, and she's just sitting there in shock. But anyways, the night continues on. I keep drinking, whatever. 2 hours later, I'm all hammered. I'm high, of course. I'm in high school. Me and my buddies did this thing. It's so stupid when we were in high school. Like on our way home from parties, we'd always just end up like pool hopping. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and we just like, you know, like if it was a backyard like this that you could just come into and there was a pool, we'd all just like get down to our boxers, so stupid, climb the fence, start swimming in the pool, and then all of a sudden the lights would get on, and we'd be like, oh man, they're gonna hear it. And people would come out of their house and chase us, and we'd all have to like run and stuff. So we got into this backyard and we were swimming, and it's like it backs out on a park. That's why we saw the pool. We were walking through a park, we're in the backyard. Lo and behold, the lights come on, this guy comes out, has a bat, like, cause he sees 6 kids swimming in this pool and stuff, and he comes out and he's like, I'm gonna come for you, and he's running. It's like a movie, and we're all getting out of the pool and we're all running, and we go to jump over the fence, and I'm there too, and I run, and I jump over the fence, and my boxers get caught. And I'm like, no. And my buddies are looking. I'm like, go without me. And I don't know what to do because I'm like stuck and I can't do anything. And all of a sudden I finally like catch like one of the rips, and I'm able to just rip my boxers off and jump over. And then I just start running naked.
Butt naked.
Away, and I'm butt naked. And who do I run into but this girl in all the ashes on her dress and her boyfriend. And I just look at them butt naked, and I'm just like, my bad again. And they're just like,
twice in one night.
Yeah. And then I just, I guess went, put my shorts on commando, and like came home, and best life.
Yeah, man. So now what's kind of your groove for Paul Thompson next?
So it's just like create. That's my only focus. Like I said, like being off social media and stuff helped me with a lot, in the sense of like, I don't really care, you know. I don't know, I'm not really focused on that stuff. I'm not focused on the gossip or the politics.
The likes and the shares.
And stuff like that. At the end of the day, man, like, I got love for everybody, and I just have such a big love for creation. So I just think it's really cool when people are creating, and I don't need to see any sneaky moves or anything like that. I just like creating. That's it. So going forward, like, just more and more and more. It's the same goal that it always has been. It's just create, whether that be painting, writing, making sketches. I'm writing a lot of stand-up still. I still am occasionally doing shows. I will be back fully, you know, around October for sure.
Yeah.
But I'm consciously taking a bit of a break and, you know, reinventing myself and my thoughts and my way of
thinking. So do you got
thinking.
any shows that like you're looking to, because I know you've been in the game for a long time, and you've done all the great shows. Is there any show that you haven't, that you would like to go towards?
Yeah, my ultimate goal has always been to sell at the National Arts Center in Ottawa.
In Ottawa?
Yeah.
Why Ottawa?
So after I lived in Texas, I lived in Alberta, then I lived in Winnipeg, then I lived in Texas for a few years, growing up, grade 1s and 2. And then I came to Ottawa in grade 3, and that's where I went to high school and stuff. That's where I guess I really realized that I'm going to be a stand-up comedian for the rest of my life. That's where I started acting. That's where I started doing everything.
And you've done so you've done the acting and whatnot, and you did the voice of a lot of people don't know. You did the voice of Wishbone.
Yeah.
And it was season 3.
Yeah.
Season 3 of Wishbone. And what was that? How old were you then?
I was probably like 12.
Oh wow! And what was that like, being that young and like? It's looking back now.
I mean, it's all I know. I did a show afterwards when I was like 16. I had a show where I was like teaching kids how to put on condoms and like a Degrassi kind of style show.
Oh wow, what was that called?
It was called Hormones.
Hormones!
Yeah.
That's so funny, I'm gonna check that out.
And then I was like, you know, I was always making YouTube sketches and I was always doing all that kind of stuff. And yeah, it's just always been my life.
Yeah,
you know?
man.
And it's always gonna be my life.
Yeah.
You know, so the most important thing is, you know, one thing I keep thinking about metaphorically is like, and one thing I think a lot of people can realize as artists, even just right now, like, you always do have to have a period of change, and you always do have to recheck the way you think about things and see what's going on in the world, and you know, your opinions are going to change, and it's like no one's ever asking you to change who you are as a person. And the metaphor I'm kind of using is like, no one's asking you to move, no one's asking you to sell your house, but you do always have to like do renovations.
Yeah.
You do always have to change the counter, and right now it's just such a great time to like check in and be like, on the way that you dress, the way that you speak, the things that you do, your habits, you know? And I'm doing a lot of that, and hoping that that's just like positive going forward. But I'm just doing a lot of renovations. But I'm not moving. I'm not going anywhere. I'm still a stand-up comedian. Still a performer. I'm still, you know what I mean? That's still what I want to do, but I'm just approaching it differently, you know?
Yeah, man. And so obviously we lounges are getting bigger and whatnot, and the shows are always fun. So and you've done the Vape Central.
Yep.
And so what are the shows like there? Because I feel like when the Vape Central shows are a little different than, say, like the underground shows. Do you ever notice that when it comes to the different spots?
Now it's like just a big headache. I don't like it at all.
Really?
Yeah, no, not at all. I just think it's whack now. But there was a time when Reitz was like hosting, and when Reitz was doing like his Sundays and stuff, there was a golden era.
Yeah, that show was iconic. Like before I started comedy, I would go watch you guys.
And it was magic, man. And Reitz would put on a 3-hour show, and we'd still go, and the audience would still be with us. And they'd be a tough audience, but there was something magical. But in the past couple of years or so,
you think it's dying off a little bit?
Oh yeah, I think that magic is gone.
And why do you think? What do you think has been the change?
I don't know. I don't know if it's just like a matter of like
that it's not so like speakeasy style.
Yeah, there's that, and there was just a lot of negative energy throughout, like, you know, some of the things that happened there and stuff.
Yeah.
Some of the staff got a little, you know, got egos and stuff like that, and it's important when you're smoking weed to embrace people with open arms.
Yeah, man.
And not be like, you know, standoffish and stuff. And the vibes just got weird, dude.
Wow, see, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I'm just still so new to the scene. You're still trying to feel everything out in all the different places.
Yeah.
And so obviously you've been in it for a minute. What do you got? Any advice for new guys? Guys kind of working through the scene?
Yeah, it's you know, to be honest with you, like, it took me a long time, and I've seen so many people over the years. I've been with so many people that I've been in the game with people for 10 years, and I just know that like the first 3 years, it's extremely difficult, man. It's extremely rough, and it just kind of like, in the best way, like, it's not gonna matter. You are gonna get so much better, but that first 3 years is just like, keep your chin down.
Yeah.
Don't get caught up in the bullshit. If people start telling you like, yo man, you're really good, don't listen to that either. Don't listen to nothing.
Stay humble as possible.
Stay humble and stay hopeful, you know? Don't let, like, because, man, you can go through your first 2 years just bombing consistently, and really what you need to focus on is, don't worry about getting on this show or that show or who likes you. It's just, like, truly, like, what are you having the most fun doing?
Yeah,
and also don't lie to yourself. Like, you know, make stuff that you truly think is funny. You know, don't be trying to shock people or do anything. Just really just try and make people laugh and have fun.
Yeah.
You
So
know?
what would you say is the Paul Thompson style coming to the stage then? How do you like, you know, no, how do you, like, when you try to break down a crowd, when you go into a room and you're like, okay, this is where I'm going to start, or do you always have the same
Well, then that's
set?
where anxiety would help, because and that's where, again, where I'd be thankful for my anxiety, and I would see it as a positive thing, because when I walk into the room, the me who got bullied, you know what I mean, which is probably I attribute to a lot of reasons why I'm funny, was just out of self-defense, you know, because people want to jump you or whatever, or everyone's making fun of you, and the only way I can prove self-worth is by being a funny guy. And that's really what so much of my life was. People didn't want to look twice at me until I started being the funny guy, you know?
Really? So you got that little bit of gratification.
Bro. I don't think I've ever been with a woman in my life, if you want me to be truly deep, that I couldn't attribute back to comedy.
Yeah.
I think I've always attracted, you know, like, that's what's made people look at me.
Yeah, your
you
selling
know?
point.
His selling point is that I'm a funny guy. So out of that self-defenseness and funniness, when I walk into a room, I'm always nervous, man. Every show, I'm always nervous, and especially like if it's something like out of town, for example, you know, and I don't know anybody there, and I have no way of predicting it. When I walk into the room, my heart's beating, I'm nervous, and I really just pay attention, and I have like an eye like a hawk now, where like I'll notice when like this table's starting to drink a little bit, and we have 40 minutes, and I'm not going to be on stage for another hour, and they're already drinking, and I start thinking that they might be a problem. And everybody who's making me insecure, my anxiety starts picking them out, and starts thinking like, this lady might not pay attention, and this might not. And out of that insecurity, I start thinking, you know, when you're in the shower and you're having arguments with your boss?
Yeah.
Well, guess what? If you had I kind of do that already. But I start like thinking like this guy being like, boo, like I picture that, and then I'm like, yeah, well, you look
for you first.
You look like this, you look like that, and I can almost do little rewrites where I'm like, he looks like, oh no, he looks like that is even better, and I start making fun of him already in my head and this and that, and it kind of just gets hidden away in my subconscious, all that anxiety, and it's a beautiful thing, and I just keep building that up until I go on stage, and then I do my thing. And sometimes I do 45 minutes straight of material, and surprise, they actually are an awesome audience. But if that guy in the corner, if I am right about him, which a lot of the time I am, yells something, he doesn't know I have a whole fight plan prepared.
Yeah, you're ready.
And I already know which is the best one to start with, and which is this, and which is that. I know all of so I'm going to blow him out the water, and I ride that wave, you know, and that's really what, like, stand-up always, when it's working perfect to me, it's just like, you know, I'm dealing with all of the crowd things. Every time I'm doing that, they're trusting me more, which lets me go into another joke and lets me trust more and stuff like that. And, like, you know, that's it. You know, in like UFC, when, you know, you're fighting and it's just like they're hitting, and it can be for a few rounds, but when that one kind of shakes them and you're just running at them because now you're going for the TKO, I'm looking for that moment as quick as possible.
And there's knockout.
And I'm just gonna continue to punch and punch and punch and punch for that 45 minutes once I see you starting to get dizzy.
What's the most amount of people you've ever performed for?
At Dundas Square for 420, it was like 15,000 people or something.
Outside. And what's that like? Because performing indoor and outdoor.
So that's like not really nerve-wracking in the sense, because so many people aren't paying attention. So it's like, I don't know if that can even count as like a perform for 15,000 people, because you can't really perform. No one's there to like sit down.
15,000 people at this weed rally though.
Yeah. So it's just like, you're kind of just like, you know, your openers were 4 hours of like, we want you guys to know that Bill 417 CA, John Tory, wants to take away the right for cannabis to be used in any recreation. Like, you know what I mean? The crowd's not paying attention. It's not a hot crowd.
When was this then?
That would be like 2016, 2015.
So right when it got, so before or after legalization?
Before legalization.
So this is weed rallies during, what were those like?
Those are crazy. Yeah, and they matter a bit more. I can take this.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, they matter a bit more. They've always been what they've always been. There's a beautiful, I feel like they're family, you know? There's so many people in the weed community. It's like the weed community in Toronto.
But what's it like to be smoking with 15,000 people? And you know it's wrong.
That's the family kind of bond of it, you know? That's a beautiful thing, especially it is then and it is now. And it's like, there is such a bonding thing about
weed.
It's wild. You can have a mind-blowing, like, two people that don't know that each other smoke, and then like just getting together. You know what else too is like some of the most beautiful things is like, I recommend doing it. Sometimes when you just know that you just kind of been having beef with somebody, and just like, you just keep clashing and haven't seen eye to eye for, you know, years, and it's just like you kind of have a problem. And when you ask yourself, you're like, I kind of really don't have a problem with this guy. And just randomly, most times people have too big of an ego and they're like, nah, screw off. But it's beautiful. I have sometimes just been like, yo, man, like, I know we kind of don't like each other, but do you want to just get together, like just me and you? You've never hung out with this person one-on-one, and let's just smoke a joint.
And you've done that.
I've done it. And it's beautiful to sit there and you're like smoking, and you know, there's an animosity, and all of a sudden it's like, sometimes you just get so high and you're like, yo, is that raccoon? And then you're like, what? And you're both watching this raccoon, and the next thing you know, you're like, man, you're all right.
Hey, that's
you know
cool,
what I mean?
man.
And it's like, yeah, you are too, you know? And it's like, I don't think that happens with alcohol. You
Or
could get together and you
coke,
could like smash heads over alcohol and then just be like, yo, I love you, buddy.
Yeah.
Sure. But weed's
But it's
kind
not
of
a
cool to
connection.
just
Yeah, it's not
smoke
a
a
real
joint.
connection.
And you're just like, yeah, you know?
So have you ever, so your relationships, have you always been in relationships with women who smoke weed, or have they always been potheads? Like, you know what I mean? Is it,
No.
do you find it's a difference in relationships when you do smoke weed, or one does and one doesn't?
No, not really.
No.
Not really. Not at all. You
No,
know?
eh?
But I like when a girl's not like, because I have such a low tolerance to it, I kind of like girls to be on that same level if I had a preference, but I don't care. Like, I've been in a relationship with a girl definitely smoked way more weed than me and was never the type to get anxiety from it, and like, that's cool, you know what I mean? But I kind of like it when a girl's like, if I could choose, but like, I don't know, I really wouldn't care, but if I could, if I had to be picky, you know what I mean? I like it when the girl's like, I smoke once a week, and I know when she does smoke, like, she actually is getting pretty high, because it's like, I actually am getting pretty high.
Are you an edible guy or no?
No. At this point, man, like, zero tolerance. There's no point.
None, eh?
Because either I don't feel anything or I feel too much.
Or too much.
And feeling too much, man, like I said, I do acid, I do mushrooms, I've done every
You eat
drug
edibles
under the
back in the
sun.
day, though?
Yeah. I've never liked it.
No, I mean, they were nasty back in the day. I never ate edibles when we were making them at home and stuff, or they tasted like 1,000 grams of weed or whatever.
Man.
That was never appealing
That
to
panic
me.
attack is too much for me, bro.
Yeah, because you don't know how much you're eating, right? 'Cause back in the day, there was no dosage, no regulation.
And there's no way to get rid of it.
No, yeah.
That's what's so scary.
We never had CBD and to level it out, and no oil. Like, you know, I mean, there was nothing to fucking calm you down. You ride that wave. Have you ever seen anybody green out before?
Oh, buddy. Like, our podcast, we did it live before COVID, and people would smoke and watch us do the podcast and stuff, and like, we had a lot of greenouts. And like I said, like, I used to work at Vape on the Lake. I ran a show there for 5.5 years. You see, I would probably say I've probably seen 40 to 50 greenouts during shows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, do you have a worse one or no? Do you remember one? Because we've done like when they give comics dabs at Vapor Central, especially when they don't expect it or they've never done dabs before. I've seen one guy just lose his whole set and then have to go to the back and just like he was shaking. And
I always feel just so awful because I've been there. So like it's never funny to me. I always feel bad. Funny thing that did happen though was a few months ago we had somebody green out at our show, and it was pretty crazy because he was in the front row, and I know he was just dying for the first 30 minutes of the show, and Natish and I just had this guy, like, he was loving us. And he greened out, but he was still sitting up. So his eyes are open, and all of a sudden he's just out, and he's being shook. And, like, that got me, like, I didn't know, man. I'm so high, too, so I start thinking the worst. And somebody yells, they're like, call 911. And this girl in the audience just goes, like, I can't. My phone's at 11%. There's 30 people in the audience. First of all,
11%.
Don't call 911. Like, we got it.
Yeah.
You know, he's gonna, like, just literally sugar and water.
This is weed.
They're gonna wake up. For sure. It's weed. Like, you know, if there's a pre-existing condition, like, we'll look into that. But if it's like, no, you know, he's gonna shake it off. It's scary. It's not fun. But, like, stay calm. We got it. There's no reason to, like, call the police.
Don't
anybody,
call the police,
you know?
for greenouts.
But at the same time, there's 30 people there. Somebody can use their phone. The most 2020 thing to say, just like, I can't, my phone's at 11%. Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
And why would you yell that out loud? You can hear it on our podcast. You can hear the girl yell, I can't, my phone's at 11%.
That's the saddest thing too, is for some guy's safety. She's like, I need this 11% for my
what?
Facebook.
For your Facebook?
Yeah, check my Instagram messages. Anyways, Paul, hey, listen, this has been super fun, man. I appreciate you having us all the way out here.
Thank you so much.
All the best in your comedy career. Obviously, you're already smashing. You're a killer. Everyone talks about you, so it's been a pleasure to come here today and chill with you and chill, man.
Thank you, man.
So thank you very much for having me. This has been another section of Apexx Radio's Cannabis Culture section with Cannabis Comedy Church, guys. Check Paul out on, I guess, Instagram and Facebook. You have them still there. They can check you out.
Paul Thompson Comedy is my Instagram, and my podcast is High on Trees.
High on Trees, guys, check it out. It's a great podcast to listen to.
Everywhere.
They're a great group of dudes.
Spotify, everywhere. I highly recommend it.
And we're gonna keep doing this thing, guys. We're gonna keep getting cool new guests, and we're gonna keep tuning in every week, guys. So please keep checking us out. Thank you very much. I've been Nathan Texera.
Yeah.